measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and vegs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Len, Surf Daddy, and a whole bunch of people in the Flipside Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good day.
Hey, mate. How's it going? Top of the morning to you. Been covering Surf Daddy's list of 60, I kid you not, Feast of Nonsense former flat earth proofs. And when I say former flat earth proofs, I mean not proving anything to do with Earth's flat measurements and everything to do with either sphericity or the suggestion that there's some conspiracy hiding God or some other crap. So we've been going through those. We got through about 11 of them yesterday, and we will continue to do exactly that through today after we've got through any, I was going to say housekeeping, but that isn't necessarily our thing. Housekeeping in terms of things that might need to be addressed. Anything new? Anything on the docket that we should be looking at before we get into these housekeeping questions? Not housekeeping questions. Second time I've made that mistake. These, what we call them? Feast of Nonsense questions. I've not got queued up, so I'm hoping someone will respond to me because I'm struggling to do two things at once.
Yeah, horizontal distances prove a globe, silly.
I think that what these questions are doing is showing, because I'm seeing them, there's an uptick, I think, in social media presence of these kind of questions becoming mainline proofs that everyone is looking at and everyone's getting either convinced or ticked off about or whatever, or arguing about. And the pending release of the book, excuse me, will literally erase everybody's arguments, period. And there's going to be a lot of pushback. And so
because people don't like change. So I think these questions, or these so-called proofsies, have been injected into a community that is definitely not organic. It's come from conspiratardia. And when you say people don't like us pointing out how their preordained, suggested to be good arguments are actually not very good because they don't prove Earth is measured flat, they'll be annoyed because people don't like to alter their already in existence rhetoric. That is to say, people like to continue on a script. Now, I'm not suggesting that people have got a physical piece of paper in front of them and are reading off a script like I'm about to read off this list, but it's rhetoric, a script, your way of convincing next man that your point is valid. And if you've had, in some people's minds, success with a certain piece of rhetoric, then you're going to do as the beast does and repeat that process, hoping that you'll get the same result next time if somebody's responded politely to you. That is to say, they've nodded along while you've told them about how, let's go to the next number, 12, all space agencies across the land share the same vector logo. Now, I'll just start by saying this has absolutely nothing to do with the subject of Earth's flat measurements, like zero. The logo on a admittedly connected to the globe Earth rhetoric entity having a similarity. So there's a vector on space agencies. What say you on the panel? I mean, I'm just at a loss. This kind of crap is what we used to deal with 10 years ago. It is crap, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yep, and used to use it, used to point it out. I didn't go down the full route, but I would always point that out. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that a coincidence? Same thing with the 666 math about all of heliocentric measurement, or not measurements, of their measurements, I guess. Their claims. You just get caught up in that. You learn about the subject, you delve into it, and you just you feel like you need to now be a teacher of it. And all these people who are new into it and making videos about it, they are the self-appointed teachers of the curricula. And what your book's going to do is basically say, all of you teachers have been teaching crap and lying to your students, and you're going to become irrelevant. You always have been irrelevant because we've always measured the Earth like this. So it's a paradigm shift. It's a lateral, horizontal level paradigm shift, I think.
Back to the specific question, though. I agree with everything you say. However, in terms of the space agencies sharing the same logo, and if you don't know what a vector is, people have suggested that this symbol is akin to the serpent's tongue, that NASA is some satanic way of saying the snake serpent, and this is his tongue. I've heard all sorts of conspiratorial stuff about the vector symbol that's found on the European Space Agency, NASA, even in bloody Star Trek, right? You've got a lot of repetition with this specific logo, but who cares? Like, it might have some deeper meaning. Like, there's plenty of subliminal messages out there. Like, one of the logos that we saw, I think it was for Jeff Bezos' space entity, rocket, whatever you call it, his penis-shaped thing that he's sending up, has a feather that's just a subliminal penis. No way of sugarcoating it. It is the tip and shaft of a cock in the shape of a feather, for the incredibly dumb. While he sends a rocket up to an alleged area that's a sky vacuum. Back to the point of this particular point, number 12 on the list. They share vector logos. And they're sending rockets up to an altitude measured from sea level. They're using ballistic trajectory. It's measured flat for distance and altitude. And we're going to look at the bleeding vector like it has any importance at all. Who cares? Look at some of the measurements from the rocket's launches and you'll see a flat Earth measurement or two. And you can lean straight into that rather than suggesting that a vector's a snake tongue. Like anybody cares. But it sounds salacious, doesn't it? Yeah? And satanic. It's a serpent's tongue. It's the forked tongue of Satan when they tell you about the sky vacuum. No, they just measure Earth flat with a ballistic trajectory. I mean, the rest of the stories that I've heard, unsubstantiated, are that when these rockets alleged to go into an area that cannot possibly be real, in violation of the second law of thermodynamics, a sky vacuum, what they actually do is send it in a ballistic trajectory that you can only measure with respect to a flat plane, and then dump it in the Bermuda Triangle. That's it. They're not going out anywhere. And then later on, they'll bring back a rocket from space that's a glider, and everyone's happy. It's got a full story arc. You're like, really? This is sad. I think it's Family Guy or some similar cartoon, Cleveland or something like that, where they had Stanley Kubrick come around to wherever the setting is, Hogmire or Hogmeade or wherever it is in Family Guy and the Cleveland show. And Kubrick is directing a trip to Mars. And in the direction, he tells everybody, close your eyes while they dump off a crane a module into the water. And he goes, splash! Right, open your eyes again. In other words, even the normie cartoon mainstream will take the piss out of the idea that they'll send up probably a scale model, dump it at sea, and then bring back a different rocket ship and dump it in the ocean and say, there you go, there's the man getting out. You saw it go up, didn't you? You saw the firework and all the flames. And then it went to space, honestly. It went through the wardrobe into Narnia. You just didn't see that bit. It was too far away, obviously. How far? Well, a flat Earth distance of altitude and height and surface level mile measurement away. Okay, so once we've taken the ballistic trajectory out of the equation, so no one focuses on how flat we're measuring Earth to get this thing into the sky, to then disappear over the horizon in what even the children describe as an arc. It's coming back down again, says the little boy. No, it's gravitationally attracted to the spherical radial value in an orbital motion, says the father, trying to sniff his own farts. It's just gone too far away and looked like it was coming back down again. Okay. But now we've got beep, beep. Yes, everything's nominal. And a few pictures. Meanwhile, the measurements are flat. So all of this bullshit is irrelevant. It's just cockwaffle to keep conspirators entertained while they look through NASA footage. And they're getting the same degree of enjoyment, just in a subtly different way, as the people who believe it. Who's off mute? They're getting the same enjoyment as a 12-year-old boy would get when he's watching this stuff, believing that there's a place that you could be like Superman, hover around in orbit in zero-G. Yeah, you too could be like Superman, little dweeb. That's the 12-year-old fart-sniffing, believing it methodology of watching this crap. But then you get overgrown hippies that look at the same footage and go, hey, man, check it out. That astronaut just dropped its keys. And it hit the floor. They're supposed to be in zero-G. Look at that water on the side. It's not floating away. They're obviously in a gravitational field. You're like, you bunch of numpties. While you try and debunk this footage, you're simultaneously affirming a 109-year out-of-date, I think it's 110-year out-of-date, force that's not a force that you can think of as a force, of a mass-attracting mass, that will allow orbital motion to result in a net force of zero, called gravity, that apparently isn't in existence when you debunk this footage. And what are you talking about? Their altitude's measured off sea level. They're travelling in a horizontal linear distance measurement. That's how the world's been mapped and charted and surveyed. So any ascribed vector to this claim to be rocket in a sky vacuum in violation of a law of nature, the second law of thermodynamics, is ultimately going to be, what, affirming gravity for you while you debunk the footage? Who cares? It's got flat Earth measurements up the wazoo, like anything that's ascribed to an Earth measurement, in this case, velocity. It's doing, what, 17,500 miles per hour? What's a mile? All right, it's the linear distance measurement that we use to chart all the land that this is apparently moving over. So got flat Earth measurements then. It's about vectors and V symbols. That's all the V means, vector, from what I've looked into when I did look into it 10 years ago, like it mattered. Why have they all got this symbol? It just means vector.
Well, if Satan's a liar, so NASA's lying. There you go.
Oh, as far as I can see, if you actually understood this, if you weren't just given the logo, slapped it on, and then were very proud that you trained as an astronaut, because at that point you think you're going up to a sky vacuum. Vector, what, like directionality, orientation, vectors, yeah, these are flat Earth proofs. You're not going to offer me a single vector that doesn't prove an Earth that's flat in terms of the measurement derivatives that a vector's going to employ. So the best I can extract is it's dupe as to light. Somebody's put it on and gone, vectors. Yeah, they're all flat Earth prerequisites. That's how they're described. There is no exception. Orbital mechanics is derived from flat Earth prerequisites. It's Cartesian. Like everything. There is no exception. If you're referencing anything to Earth and its surface, the measurements are all flat. All measurements of Earth are flat. There are no exceptions. All claim to be spherical suggestions are derivatives of these flat Earth prerequisites in the first instance. You can't have sphericity, you can't have orbital motion, you can't have anything to do with the globe and heliocentric motion without flat Earth measurements. They are a prerequisite for all Earth measurements, including but not limited to the vectors asserted in ballistic trajectory when probably launching scale models into the Bermuda Triangle and alleging that they've gone to a sky vacuum in the violation of second law thermodynamics that it is. Any more on vectors, on logos?
Not vectors on logos, but a lot of these questions Daddy's putting forth, it does highlight the fact that, and people are still doing this on the supposedly flat Earth side, if you want to call it that. They start talking about this area of space, which is, doesn't exist, like you've just highlighted. But we've spent so much time talking about that crap rather than, it just shows how much we wasn't talking about the measurements, doesn't it?
Yep. I'm going to do a call to action, right? I think these shows from today, or yesterday strictly, because we did 10 of them yesterday, will be outstanding. It will tick a lot of boxes for a lot of people who want this show to be about that. Oh, why are you talking about the flat Earth measurements? Can't you talk about how we see too far? And you're like, that is flat Earth measurements. But people want the feast of nonsense. They want to talk about bubbles in space and vector logos and NASA being satanic. That's what people want to talk about. And they want us to talk about it too. It's their preferred methodology of conspiratardia in the flat Earth subject arena. And they want us to comport to it. And I'm like, no. But we're going to go through it. That's what we're going to be doing. So if you've not done so, or you typically don't share the show because you're like, oh, I don't know if this is my brand of flat Earth, now's the time to do it. If you're like, I don't want to share it because I don't think the Earth's flat, well, then you'll rejoice in the fact that we're bracing against the subject that's been laid down on the table, preordained, if you will, for you to debate and discuss as a globe believer with other flat earthers, and I'll be condemning it. Maybe not for the reasons that you appreciate, maybe not for reasons that will affirm your sphere belief, but condemning it in a way that you'll appreciate if you're a ball believer. So please share the show if you're not typically disposed to pressing the share button for this particular show. Today is the day. Yeah, I want to see the numbers going up as we're covering Feast of Nonsense garbage. And it's in a concise way that I can even trim out. I've done so. So from yesterday's show, I've got about 6, maybe 7 different videos that are about 1 minute to 2 minutes long that basically cover a specific Feast of Nonsense question that's asked to flat earthers by the curious onlooker or the sphere believer. And they're being paraphrased like, why do all the space agencies have a vector logo that looks like a serpent's tongue? That's a standard-ish conspiratardia flat earth style question that you could expect to have a discussion about when you get to this arena. Preordained to make the people who are promoting the idea of it being flat earth, that is, look like conspiratards, while we, in this very, very, very small minority, talk about the fact Earth's measured flat for everyone always and without exception, including but not limited to vectors themselves. Forget the logo and the brainwashing ascribed to the subliminal aspects of it, when you can just say, well, what's a vector? Well, it's a flat Earth measurement. That's the end of that discussion. Don't need to speculate about whether or not bloody Captain Kirk's also in on the gig, because he's got a vector on his little transmitter badge. I mean, who gives a toss? Vectors are flat Earth measurements. Let's do the next one. Astronauts almost drowning in quote-unquote space. I'll roll my eyes. We've just covered space. The sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. in line with dispersion laws called entropy. That's the second law of thermodynamics. Gas fills space. If there wasn't available space for rockets to traverse, the gas you're breathing would have filled it. We'd have never developed gas pressure in the first place. The very first gas particle, as all of them do, would have come from the ground, gone into the sky vacuum to never return. Gases would only come back down if they collided with the walls of a container. And we are under containment. We are breathing pressurized gas. Ergo, if the gas we are breathing is pressurized, there is no ability to traverse through the lack of containment that would force the gas into an area of volume the rockets are claimed to be in, to take pictures of the Earth from space. Now, when you talk about space, the best way to avoid the fact that this is a non-existent area, only capable of description with a flat Earth prerequisite perpendicular height from sea level, it's best to juxtapose that garbage with an idea that the fake show of space is taking place in a pool where men can almost drown. Who cares if there's a pool? We measure our height off surface level. Sea level is the preordained master reference that gives us an altitude. So if you're going to describe this thing in any mathematical certainty, you're going to be ascribing flat Earth measurements, because all of them are flat, to this alleged to be entity in a sky, juxtaposed by flat earthers with men in a pool. We know there's a pool. The deep submersion tank that NASA practice in, according to them, is a very well-known, well-documented fact. So it's not like the conspiratards need to lean very far into this when they start talking about it and ignoring flat Earth prerequisite perpendicular measurements from sea level and an area that possibly isn't even in existence in the way that they describe it beyond about a mile off the ground. Ultimately speaking, the best defence is to lead the opposition, that's flat earthers, into describing men drowning in a tank that they already admit to when they say that they're in space. So they can argue about whether or not the suit that they're wearing might potentially fill with water in space, not the pool, because now nobody's talking about how flat Earth gets measured, violating any suggestion of an orbital motion for these men to be in the first place. Another derivative of flat Earth prerequisite to put them in a motion in an area that doesn't exist, akin to Narnia. I'm done. Anybody else got anything on this? Talking about men drowning in space?
I totally agree with you, Nathan, but it's always been the case. What you've just explained is all you need to know every time space is mentioned. That is all you have to say. And people have spent years not explaining that and instead discussing what type of toilet is on the ISS, the Hasselblad camera, what modifications did that have to get photographs of the so-called blue marble or whatever it was. Not just skipping past the point that the area they call space cannot exist. Yeah. Defies gas law, defies the second law of thermodynamics, which you've just explained. But people just skip over that and start talking a load of nonsense about other things.
Yeah. I mean, even more damning or even more useful for us is the fact that if you're going to describe a travel through an area that doesn't exist, you need to plan it. You have a trajectory. With vectors, yeah, you'll need flat Earth prerequisite distances and altitudes to plan this travel. That's to say, if you're going to ascribe any measurements at all to this so-called journey, they'll be flat. That's how trajectories are described mathematically based on measurements of the surface. They're all flat. Not just the trajectories, but the measurements that you're basing them on. Everything about this so-called trip requires flat Earth measurements. Now you're going to say, well, we could argue about whether or not space is real. We've got exceptional evidence that it can't possibly be. It violates a law of nature. Meanwhile, let's just have a look at the trajectory. Okay, fine. You say you go to space. Let's have a look at the measurements. If you can get it into your head that almost all so-called globe proofs are immediately overturned by just asking to see a few measurements, you'll suddenly realise that you don't have to argue in juxtaposition with a sky that you haven't got a clue about. I don't know what the frickin' sky is. I've never made a claim about it. I might have asked why it's blue when I was a kid, but that's about it. Now, the fact that there's a load of numpties that are arguing and suggesting that we've got an area that men can behave like Superman in, floating around like they're flying. Okay, let's see some measurements. Oh, look at that. We've got miles immediately. We've got to measure Earth flat for that. Oh, we've got orbital motion. Oh, well, we'll need to derive radial values for that. How did we do it? Oh, we did it with flat Earth measurements of angles from surface level. Meaning this out-of-the-box crazy notion of an orbit violates the base principle measurement that's used to create it. I mean, they were only creating it to get a better idea of the motions of the stars when explaining epicycles. Putting things into elliptical motion so that they can try and call them, what do they call them now, retrograde motion? They're just trying to explain lights in the sky. You thought that meant the ground you were standing on was moving around the sun? No. That's 500-year-old archaic nonsense that people a long time ago used to better understand the stars. You thought that meant you could fly like Superman? Ah, bless your little 12-year-old heart. Let's have a look at the measurements, shall we? Oh, well, what do you know? Earth's being measured flat in this shite too.
Well, isn't it also interesting, though, that they're practicing in water, and God describes in Scripture that there's water above. So,
oh my God! Somebody throttle him.
Sorry.
The next one, same or similar. We've got water bubbles and scuba tanks viewed in space. I mean, I could try and dissect this because it seems like a logical way. It's almost like you're in a wheelbarrow being pushed down a hill. Well, hang on a second. They do film in a deep submersion tank, and some of the footage shows bubbles. I mean, it's almost there. I'm coming to it. Maybe the footage came from the tank. Let's have a look at some measurements. Earth's measured flat. The suggested trajectories and vectors and motions, that's orbits, are all based on measuring Earth flat. So who gives a shit how they come up with the stage show and afford you a suspension of disbelief? On the one side, letting you believe you can actually be Superman. On the other, saying, oh no, clever, I noticed that they film in a tank and then some of the continuity errors get through. Yeah, shocking. But that doesn't prove anything. You could argue all day about how you're wrong and they're right in an area you're never going to visit. You just aren't rich enough. But if we had a little look at the measurements, we'd quickly see that Earth's being measured flat for this so-called journey, violating it instantly. Any more on bubbles in space?
Yeah, ex-flat earther Jaron Scampanella used to produce videos of spotting bubbles in space. But I'm just curious if he believes in space again now that he's no longer a flat earther. Not that that matters. Earth's still going to be measured from flat.
You're interested in what Jaron Campanella believes now that he's flip-flopped from globe Earth to sphere, from globe Earth to flat Earth and back to globe Earth again. So because he's a flip-flopper, you're intrigued to know what he believes in.
Well, he no longer is a flat earther, but I wonder if that takes away all the bubbles that he's spotted in his previous streams, and whether he thinks that's real footage and anomalies in Narnia.
I mean, Jaron Campanella is absolutely without question a flat earther. Earth is measured flat. It's the rock and the hard place. Redundant though it might be, it still applies if you're going to suggest that you can flip-flop from one to the next. You can be ignorant and believe what you were taught in school. That's globe believer. You can then substitute your former belief in a globe with a new belief in flat Earth. And then you can relinquish your new belief in flat Earth in favour of your old belief of globe. But both globe Earth belief and flat Earth belief both fundamentally rely on actually measuring Earth's surface. It is measured flat. If you suggest that you believe in the globe, then you ultimately require derivations of radial values that are required by measuring Earth's surface flat. If you're going to utilise concepts like time, you will require averages of elevation angle measurements of the sun to give you this concept. If you're going to utilize any directionality whatsoever, you require Earth be measured flat with azimuth. All Earth measurements, including but not limited to ones that afford idiots like Jaron Campanella a sphere belief, are all flat. So to put it more concisely, in order for him to believe Earth is a sphere, he will require the flat Earth be measured to create a sphere to believe in. Ultimately, everyone relies on the same Earth measurements. They're not varying based on your belief. They're all flat. And in order to create a sphericity, to convolute angle measurements that have a curve of the protractor into being the curve of the surface. Now, if you don't understand how they convert flat Earth measurements like these on screen into a world that you can be at the center of a ball that's got angle measurements wrapped around it like latitude, if you don't understand that that sphericity requires you be inside a ball, and then later extrapolate and calculate into existence a surface to pretend you're on, then you simply don't understand the full extent of the flat Earth prerequisites used to create your ball belief. That's not being on a ball or having a justification to believe you're on a ball. That's ignorance. That's I want to believe I'm on a ball, or I want to believe Earth is flat, versus I know how Earth is measured. Those two things are very different. Once you know how Earth is measured, like this on screen, you can understand the planar prerequisite for elevation angle measurement derivation to create sphericity with. Then you can declare that you understand how the sphere can exist to believe in. And to believe in a sphere, you require we measure Earth flat. Hope you're all sharing the show. We're chucking out diamonds. Hopefully it's not to swine. 40 people watching. Please share the show. We are covering Feast of Nonsense. This is a dream come true for ballers who love to brace against this garbage. And a dream come true for flatties who think finally they're going to stop proving it's flat with just saying the word mile. And they're going to launch into serpent tongues on vector logos. Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're going to tear them a new asshole, but it'd be nice if there was a few people watching as we are covering what the predominant flat earthers in this so-called crappy community have been covering for the last 10 years. And simultaneously all ignoring the flat earth prerequisites that they're based on. Whistling straight past them, sometimes having absolutely no semblance of any commonality with the measurements of Earth when talking about bleeding vector logos. The logo's got nothing to do with an Earth that's flat. The vector itself does. Next, density, buoyancy, and electromagnetism are better explanations for gravity. So, explanations for gravity? Gravity is an out-of-date pseudo-force. What explanation is required by density, buoyancy, or electromagnetism? Density and buoyancy are already explained with a type of gravity. It's called specific gravity. Specific gravity being relative density in the disequilibrium created when you have an object more dense than the medium it is placed in which instance it goes down. Now, if you ascribe this the terminology of gravity, it ignores that if you have an item of less density than the medium it is in, it will go in an upward vector. Now, if you can only focus on one of Archimedes' principles, then you can ascribe it as a downward vector that can then be ascribed, again in name only, to a second type of gravity called Newtonian, which is the assertion that the mass of Earth will attract the mass of objects with mass. Looks up at cloud, ponders the amount of mass that's not going down having gone up from the ground. 110 years out of date gravity. Currently, for heliocentric believers, you have the planar, pseudo-Riemannian, fourth-dimensional, space-time geometry invented, or to put it another way, plucked out of his arse, Einsteinian gravity. Now, without going into string theory, I mean, I haven't got Sheldon's Batman logo on, have I? So I don't think I'll take it that far. But in terms of relative density, it's already ascribed within the family of gravity. In reality, we've only got Archimedes' principle. That's relative density disequilibrium if you're describing a vector. That's not mass attracting mass, and it certainly isn't a bent pseudo-Riemannian space-time geometry. Anybody else? Somebody wanted to get a word in. Good.
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, I'm just sort of saying and picking up on things that people used to just argue this for hours and hours and hours about gravity. Getting stuck on the out-of-date Newtonian gravity and things going up and down and in downward vectors and everything and all this, and spending hours and days and probably months talking about this, when the only thing you can relate to the out-of-date Newtonian gravity, if things are going down, it will require a horizontal plane of reference. All the rest of it has got nothing to do whatsoever with the shape of the Earth that we live on.
As for electromagnetism being an orientation in the downward, have you never used a compass? No, this seems like another convolution between azimuth and altitude. If you're going to use a magnetic field in some practical application, you're going to be trying to use it to find north, so you can describe degrees from that 0 point in the horizontal. What's that? Electromagnetism is a better description for vectors in the vertical? No, clearly you don't know what we actually put into practical application when it comes to the magnetic fields on Earth's surface. We use them for directionality in the horizontal. It's not a better explanation. It's utterly useless when you describe Earth within the context of this measurement, because that particular Earth measurement, what for magnetic field lines, is horizontal. But I think electromagnetism is a better explanation for vertical vector. No, definitely not. Archimedes did a perfectly satisfactory job of describing relative density in disequilibrium. That's satisfactory. You can give it a new name, that's specific gravity. You can juxtapose it with the notion, incorrect that it is, that objects of mass move towards the mass of Earth, when objects of mass like gases come out of the ground and go up. And then you can supersede it 110 years ago with a bent pseudo-Riemannian space-time geometry, where you invent a notion of an extra dimension that you, a mere three-dimensional entity, couldn't possibly see or picture. Yeah, like a handkerchief up a wizard's sleeve. You're not supposed to see it. It's bullshit. It works outside of a Cartesian system and isn't capable of description in physical reality. Any pictorial descriptions of bent pseudo-Riemannian space-time geometry always and without exception are described three-dimensionally. Or to put it another way, it's bollocks. Gravity's a complete sham. Electromagnetism is not a substitution for it when the actual electromagnetic fields, if you want to claim that they have anything to do with electrical signals, as opposed to a molten iron core used in the same bullshit to describe the top of Earth being north, it isn't. So no, all 4 scores in this garbage feast of nonsense question are invalidated by actual practical Earth measurements. In this case, the only one that's useful for directionality is magnetic field lines and the horizontal orientation you can acquire from them. And in terms of displacement in an orientation or vector, for disequilibrium, Archimedes did a perfectly satisfactory job. Next. Unless anybody else has got anything on relative density, disequilibrium, the 4 different gravities, and electromagnetism. Anybody else got anything on that? Anybody at all? Is there anybody there?
We're here, just got nothing. Plus, I'm over here inviting people that come to Discord, so we'll see if the views uptick.
No, we're still at the same number of viewers. There's 40 people watching. But I'm going to have another bash at reading my poem. This actually made it into the book, and I did make an attempt to read it last time, but I didn't make it all the way through without making a mistake, so I'm going to have a bash now. The ether sensation is the manifestation of the vibration when viewing libration, and the perturbation in the variation of background radiation when we view illumination. There is no protestation in my verbal masturbation, because perception of the visualization of light emanation in a rotation toroidation, of magnetization through vacuum evacuation, show their Maxwellization propagation with emotion demonstration, phase quantization via quantum induction validation, where we view the Michelson-Morley experiment showing consistent variation in the direction when illumination went on vacation at elevation in atmospheric stratification by interpretation. And that's a miniaturization of the ether explanation. If you lack in comprehension, it's because of your education. Did I mention the free power generation? Long live the ether. This is a declaration and not a theora hypothesization. Subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980.
Outstanding.
I thought I did quite well there. I thought I'd get a round of applause. Obviously not. Right, next. We have a density, and gravity is strong enough to hold oceans to the Earth, yet birds, planes, and clouds fly with ease. I'm pretty sure we've already covered this in the last explanation for gravity. Anybody else want to add anything about the Feast of Nonsense suggestion that gravity is defied by the butterfly's wings, but yet strong enough to hold oceans? Gravity's not a force. It's not doing any of those things. Yeah? If you're going to describe water displacing air, that's because it's more dense than the medium, as I've already explained. Archimedes did a perfectly satisfactory job of this. Okay? It's about the density of the object versus the medium. So if you've got a load of mercury, you can float an anvil on it based on it being less dense than the medium it's trying to displace. Mercury is more dense, therefore the anvil doesn't go through it even though it's liquid at room temperature. I hope we're all clear. Archimedes' relative density disequilibrium. Very simple to describe, also known as specific gravity. Does mass attract mass? No. Have you never farted? Did the gas go down, go boom boom to the Earth? No, what, it's spread out from the source at ground level where you are and went up? Yeah, that's what gas does. It spreads out. Most, if not all of it, is created at ground level. So gases go up. Maybe they're affected by a pseudo. Look up what pseudo means. Space-time geometry. Bending in a fourth dimension. No, this was plucked out of a man's arse. Called Einstein. I don't think there's anything else we need. If there's loads more on gravity, I'll just skip them. No, moving on, thank God. GoPro lenses used to fake the curve of the Earth. Back to measurements. Sorry, you say we've got Earth curve. What's Earth curve? Well, it's this part where the surface level we measure flat with miles is actually curving. Okay, give me some measurements. Well, it's 8 inches per measured mile squared. So we need to measure Earth flat in miles to derive this squared function. Oh, well, that's only an estimation. It's actually 1.2 times the square root of the measured height of a flat Earth to give us a distance in linear horizontal miles. That sounds like quite a lot of flat Earth measurements you've got there for your suggestion that the ground we measure flat in miles actually curves at a derivative value from the measured flat miles. I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go, we've got surveyors that have measured how much curve the land has. That's called topographical deviation. And it is measured to the millimetre accuracy. Don't believe me? Go and check out an Ordnance Survey map. They're very proud of how accurately they can describe deviations from the horizontal measured flat in miles when they describe the undulations of the land to the millimetre accuracy, requiring an axiomatic flat Earth prerequisite measurement of the surface flat with miles. So no, definitely not. GoPro bending bloody Earth curve. What a load of crap. Good.
I'm just loving how you're doing it, Nathan. This is how it should have been dealt with a long time ago. Rather, arguing. I keep repeating myself on these questions, but we did it. We went down the line, and this is what Sadadi's pointing out. We used to spend hours arguing about what lens was used for the curve, the fake curve, which we can say there is no curve. It's measured flat. Always has been. Always will be.
I've got nothing for this one, so hopefully some of you can help me out. No observable signs of evolution. Again, why this is being carried over into the flat Earth subject, I don't know. I'm not even going to attempt to give this an answer.
I would suggest that it's because of the Christian apologetics arguments that are being put forth about old Earth versus young Earth creation. So creationists, or oxymoronically named Christian creationists, are battling over evolution. Both agree that evolution's not taking place, but problematic is the old Earth creationists are adopting the heliocentric Big Bang idea and keeping that in their arsenal, while trying to also debate that millions of years for evolution isn't true. So that,
Gotcha.
I think that question comes from the Christian debate over what creation is according to the Bible versus what it is according to heliocentric philosophy.
So because you have people reaching for their Bible to assert that the Earth is flat based on Scripture, they then cross-pollinate with the violation of Scripture that is evolution. And then you get into that wrangle-dangle. So it's almost where I'm juxtaposing the conspirataria aspect. It's been introduced from a different angle with religious rhetorics that can affirm the Earth is flat so that they can be subverted into arguing things that are unrelated to Earth's flat measurements, in this case, evolution. Fine. Not my bag. What can I say? There are 50 people watching, so someone's definitely hit the share button. Thank you very much if you have shared the show. This is going to be an interesting show, as was yesterday. So if you want to share shows because they're more akin to your favourite Flat Earth content, this is as close as Flat Earth debate is going to get to that. That is to say, in modern times, all we do is focus on how Earth is measured. And that's it, because it ends the argument immediately. Now, some people might say, well, it's a bit boring. You say, well, if we've got 5 miles, and someone goes, stop. No more example needed. We've got 5 miles of flat Earth measurements then. That's the end of the discussion. All of Earth is measured in this prerequisite flat, linear, distance, conception, or convention, I should say, called miles. So we've got flat Earth measurement. That's the end of the discussion. Here we are talking about NASA tongues and serpents and vectors on logos. And in this case, sun rays coming in parallel or not, according to flat earthers. Well, go ahead.
Sorry, Nathan, carry on.
No, you go ahead.
I was just saying on the evolution, I mean, evolution is a description of something happening over time. And how do we measure time? You know, you can bring it back down to the measurements of Earth right there. Time is measured by measuring elevated angles to and from the sun, from the horizontal plane we dwell atop. That's how time is, was, and is always measured.
Yeah. I mean, this light rays thing is like, okay, so there's an assertion that if we measure elevation angles and derive radial values for them, you can compare and contrast the suggestion after the fact, after the extrapolation, after the flat Earth measurements, that the light, based on Huygens' derivation of those flat Earth radial values onto Venus, gives us very distant sun and stars. Therefore, the light must be coming in parallel. Okay, so when we juxtapose a flat earther who has no idea what the sun even is, being told he should suggest that the sun is local, and contrast that with a flat earth prerequisite elevation angle measurement forming a radial value that can be extrapolated out into a distance that's very far, therefore parallel light rays. Sorry, both sides require flat Earth measurements of Earth's surface to do this stupid dance about whether or not the sun's rays come in parallel or not. Sorry, will this result in you not dying at sea? No, but measuring the fucking angle will. That will stop you dying, and has been utilised to expand the territory of Earth. That's why the maps have suddenly got more land on them as they get newer. That's us using elevation angle measurements off a flat Earth to expand the known territories. I know. Tell a flat earther that he needs to assert to the world that the sun's local. And then you can contrast it with someone who's used flat Earth measurements, that we won't mention, to extrapolate out a radial value, that's flat. And then concertina ever decreasing circles of elevation angles to Polaris to create a ball, like it's the arc of the protractor we measured with. And then suggest that that ball is in a Keplerian bullshit orbital motion. Oh, but how far? Oh, well, Huygens can assume that Venus has the same flat Earth derivative R value. And then we can scale it all to being very far away and say the light comes in parallel. So we can contrast the flat earther that says that, no, it's as we see, they're coming down at angles. And then the globe believer can say, well, that's just perspective, but we don't use that in our maths. We do use flat Earth measurements, but let's none of us mention how flat Earth be measured to create a local sun with angle measurements versus a distant sun based on flat Earth measurements. Because then we can argue about whether or not the stupid flat Earth pot-smoking, silicon tree-hugging hippie is right about a local sun versus the globe believer who doesn't realise his prerequisite flat Earth extrapolations and assumptions by Christian Huygens give him a very distant sun for parallel light rays. Okay. Got one more for today.
We went over this.
Good.
We went over this the other week as well, Nathan, when we did the Eratosthenes method, and that's what we was pointing out, or you was. People spent time arguing about the divergent light, the parallel light, and it could work this way and that way. At the end of the day, that Greek guy was just measuring angles off the surface of Earth, no matter what the sun was doing or how the rays were apparently coming down. He was measuring angles off the surface of Earth. End of story.
Okay, in the bullshit land of retarded flat Earth arguments, we have the moonlight always tests cooler than the moon shade. Because that proves we're on a flat Earth, obviously.
It doesn't, but it is an interesting thing to try.
And if you cook a chicken at 190, it's that much more juicy and delicious if you cook it for 4 hours. What's your point?
Point is that I know that my stock tanks are going to get frozen over harder if there's a full moon and a clear sky at night when it's wintertime.
And this
But
has
other than
what
that,
relevance? No, that's not what I mean. I'm sure you might be able to put this into practical application if true. What useful derivative in this specific discussion about whether Earth is the derivation of flat Earth prerequisite measurements of elevation angle bastardized into sphericity or not? Where does the moon and its coldness in the shade or otherwise fit into this discussion?
It doesn't.
Can we measure angles to the moon?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So we can prove Earth is flat with the moon, use it in navigation, and it requires flat Earth prerequisites. I know. Let's talk about how cold it makes us. Because that makes a lot of sense. See what I mean? There's going to be people out there that love it. There's going to be globers that go, I love dealing with flatties. They talk about how the moon's colder in the shade. Or warmer in the shade, I lose track. And I love taking the piss out of them as stupid idiots. And then there's flatties that go, did you know that it gets warmer when you shade from the moon? It's kind of like the opposite of the sun. You go, really? Is that useful in practical application? Will it save my life at sea? Can I navigate with it? No, I see. So not very useful then. Maybe this is a red herring that you're being utilised for. It's almost like you're put here to talk about this shit, so no one talks about the practical uses that the moon can offer with flat Earth measurements attached to them. It's almost like you're being ushered into a position of authority in a flat Earth genre, so the last thing you ever talk about is measuring Earth. Interesting, isn't it?
It's an awesome red herring, and where it leads
Exactly.
people who are big sniffers is that you say, well, that proves that the moon is local. The next step is, oh, okay, well, how high is your moon?
Oh, don't get the tape measure out. Don't get the ruler out. Don't describe perpendicularity. I know what we need. A thermometer. We're going to make measurements. Let's make them as little use as possible to the subject of whether or not Earth is measured flat. We'll measure the temperature. That's definitely a measurement.
It's a good place to
But the globe is like you do. Sorry.
I was going to say it's a good place to point out again why we call these feast of nonsense, because while they do sound like possible proofs and stuff like that, they always lead away from the truth of what's trying to be stated or that's trying to be proved or whatever. They move away from how we measure the Earth and practically use it. And that's why it's important to tell people new to this subject that things like this, while interesting, are leading away from what is true. And that's why we shouldn't use them. That's why we should abandon them as arguments.
So I'm going to label this show The Feast of Nonsense Part 2. And I am going to do another call to action, which is to suggest that if you are watching this live, please do smash the share button. As I keep saying, yesterday's show, it was more obvious to me when I got to editing out lots of shorts videos, which I'll inevitably do with today's show as well, which is to say I'll take the best and most concise 1 to 2 minute sections of this particular response by me to these Feast of Nonsense questions and turn them into 1 or 2 minute shorts videos. But for you, the audience, this is a share-worthy show. It's covering all of your favourite familiar, nonsensical garbage from the Feast of Nonsense that is Flat Earth and addressing them within the context of the most up-to-date rhetoric. So it's not like you're going to be hearing things that are unfamiliar if you're already in the subject. If you're not already in the subject, they're questions that have been preordained for you to be pondering when you get here, whether you know it or not. So all of it's going to seem vaguely familiar, like it's a rhetoric that would be the right way to go in terms of discussing No, it's all garbage. And we're unpacking it and we'll do it a day at a time. So far, we've covered 20 of 60. So hopefully by the end of the week, depending on how much of a rattle on we get on in each of the days, it seems like we're going to be doing 10 a day. But we'll get through it by next week. And I want people to share these shows. This is what I've been asked for. This is what people in the comments have been telling me I should be doing. Don't just talk about measurements. It ends the discussion. Talk about the Feast of Nonsense. This guy dropped his keys on the ISS. So please share the show. 2 clicks. It's like really easy. Put it on your favourite social media platform, if that's Bebo or MySpace or Twitter, whatever you like. Blogspot. Anybody else know any out-of-date social media platforms?
MySpace.
I have MySpace. MySpace, Bebo, Vlogspot, Twitter, Skype. Share it out to all your favourites. But in seriousness, when you do click the share button, click share. It says, do you want to share to? And then you'll see your favourite, whatever platform that you're using, Twitter, X, Facebook, generally speaking, Meta, whatever you're using. What are the other ones that are out there? What's the one that Reels is on? Got the name of that one.
Instagram?
Instagram, that's it. I'm not down with these social media platforms. I'm not on Instagram. And I use Twitter to tweet out my own show. It's not even called Twitter, it's called X. But share the show. This is a good one. This is going to be one that people will enjoy watching.
Oh, are you finished with those things?
For today, yes, Neil, we'll get back into the next 10 of 60 tomorrow. So for now, we've covered 20. Yesterday's show was the first 10. I'm answering you. Yesterday was the first 10. Today's the second 10. So we've done 20 so far. There's 60 in total.
Okay. Just want to say happy birthday to my lovely wife. So when she hears this, I wish her a happy birthday. And then I also want to just LVA Paul and Roger Ledwell, don't let me catch you here. That's it.
You're the bouncer now.
You heard what they freaking said on his show yesterday. Believe me, you don't want to hear it.
Oh, God, this is juicy gossip. Let's hear it. We've done the highbrow stuff. Let's do some lowbrow stuff.
Oh, LVA Paul is like, I don't see what they did wrong. Adam was the first book Nathan came with wasn't good enough, so they had to rewrite a book. And, Nathan's gaslighting his own panel. And he's telling people not to be gaslit. And Roger Ledwell's like, yeah, I didn't see anything wrong. I don't see what the fuss is about. So you got clueless people over there on a platform saying, oh, and that's what he said that pissed me off. I won't be recommending Nathan's book. It's LVA Paul.
Oh, because LVA Paul's got 20 million subscribers, hasn't he?
Oh, God, it won't sell now.
I mean, shit.
That's what I said.
What with Paul being such a massive influence over people, I can't quite believe it, Paul. Oh, my God. What will I do? You fucking nobody. Nobody gives two shits if you're promoting my book or not, LVA Paul. Thank you very much for the absolute sack of shit computer that you cost me 12 months with. It was a right pain in the arse, and I have to have every single fucking component in it replaced. You can't even spec a computer. You think you're going to make any difference to whether or not I promote my own book or not? As for you, Roger, you don't see that anything was wrong. They offered to help me edit my book, and they're now turning editing a book into making a new book that they stole. Okay, you're obviously dumb as fuck. No, creating a new book is not what they offered. They offered to help me edit a book. Now, because they opened a new word page, that makes it a new book. No, that's where the edits went. Now, they're saying that's theirs. They've published it under their own names. I will call it like it is. They are thieves. Now, if you think they've done nothing wrong, okay, then you don't recognise the scenario as much as I thought you would, making you stupid. Now, I've already identified this for my members, and I'll identify it for the public. Good. The people who don't recognise what is actually occurring. Now we've got victim blaming. So I suggest that when people are told that the help I was offered easily proven, when they say, can we help you? And then ask me, the author, what I want in the material being produced. The same material that was stolen, republished by two thieves. Yeah, when someone says, I don't see what's wrong. Good. You can be identified quickly as the stupid. So you don't recognise that as being truly evil, offering me help to help feed my kids by altering a book that was ready for publication because they said it wasn't of a high enough standard. So don't publish your book. We will help you make it better, aka steal it from you. But Roger and LVA Paul don't recognise there's something wrong in that. Okay, good. Stay over there, you pair of morons. We are identifying you as stupid officially, like a lot of other people. Now, gaslighting is where you tell someone like Flatsy Klein, who has openly expressed her shock and dismay at the theft of my material she understood to be helping me with, as a suggestion that I've almost stolen from them. That's true gaslighting, when you can get a complete fucking retard like Flatsy Klein, the self-confessed singer. All right, how many hits have you had on the Billboard 100 there, Flatsy? None. You got your bio in a book about me that had me scratched out and some no-name, used-up, cobweb-fannied spinster replaced on top of where I was. Again, really? You don't see anything wrong in that? Okay, that's fine. Doesn't matter. They were dismissed 8 months ago and they're still talking about me, clearly. Why? Well, because they're having to justify the theft of my material. Now, again, I'll say it one last time. I am delighted that people identify themselves as stupid when they go, well, I don't see that anything's wrong in stealing another man's work and publishing it under his nose after altering it to make his life the life of a spinster who can't keep a decent man. You see that as good work, then you're not exactly a book critic. You think that the veneer of a woman hitting the wall and not being able to hold down a man is a good opener to a book. Okay, no worries. I won't come round and promote the decent book that had to be written again after its 5th draft. By me, both times, when that comes out in a couple of weeks. I won't go on your platform with 20 million subscribers there, Paul. Oh, you're a fucking nobody that nobody gives a shit about. You're just winding up one of my panel, are you? Shock and awe. Nobody gives a fuck about your opinion.
Well, he seems to think he takes your quote when back in the day you said you sit there, everybody brings stuff and you just take it and polish it up. So, but that's not what happened here. What happened is how Nathan said it happened. They offered to help and then they freaking stole it. It's the bottom line. Nathan didn't say that he came up with these freaking arguments. It's about Flat Earth Debate, the book.
The bottom line is there was a book written and I was offered help with it. Now, that book was then suggested when being edited by 2 people who offered their assistance. The edited version became a second book and justified 2 morons and idiots that that's a perfectly legitimate reason for stealing the work they offered help with. Now, it doesn't matter. It won't matter how many times I put out trimmed out clips that members have got hold of from the editing process where they're saying, hey, Nathan, how do we word this? As the author, how would you like it? Now, that's what they're asking me in clips that I'm being given. I'm not trimming them out. The people who aren't morons recognise theft when they see it. Recognise that 2 people offered me assistance as editors. Now, they're also gaslighting people that, well, we went way above and beyond editors. Well, who the fuck asked you to? Oh, well, that's your justification for stealing from me because you put in more effort than you'd have hoped. Why? All you were supposed to do is assist me in editing my book. What they actually assisted with is helping themselves to it. Now, again, I'll say it for the last time. If you're a moron and you don't recognise theft, then good. I'm glad you're putting your hands up and going, excuse me, I don't see that there's any problem with them offering you help and then stealing that which they helped you with. Good. I'm glad you're over there. More importantly, I'm glad it's people like Paul, insignificant little lonely men who have absolutely no influence over anybody. Now, the only people who've got slightly more influence are the thieves themselves. But given that we, me included, are tiny little YouTube channels, this little storm in a teacup is utterly inconsequential to the public at large. The people who I want to mass communicate this information to, via my book with my name on it, that has taken an extra year, if not 2, to produce because of thieves who managed to take the carcass of the 5th draft and slap their name on it under the guise of it being about a spinster who can't keep a man. Now, some dickhead critics out there think that's wonderful work. Well, brilliant, good, go and buy that pile of shite. I have, it's crap. I wouldn't wipe my arse with it. Meanwhile, my 5th draft turned into a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and eventually 10th draft that is of an exceptionally high quality. It's yet to be released, and I expect there to be very little to no fanfare when it finally does. What will happen is I'll go out and promote the damn thing. Just not on Paul's channel, because he hasn't got one. I'll try and approach people who've actually got influence and encourage them to actually read my material and hope that they're not put off by the garbage carcass of my 5th draft when it opens with a story of a woman who can't keep a man. She can't even keep a shit man. That's the opener. So when people go, oh, you said it was good when it was being written. When we were in the drafting process and it wasn't finished yet, I knew what was potentially going to be good. Yeah, I did. Then it got stolen and turned into an absolute sack of shit. with a load of biographies about people who are utterly inconsequential to the actual narrative of the story of flat earth debate and housekeeping questions. You got these lonely housekeeping questions in there with no character development around them to describe how they came to pass. You just got these bios at the beginning about these inconsequential gaslit morons. That's what my fifth draft turned into. What's that second book? No, opening up a new fucking Word document doesn't mean what they stole is a second book. Anyway, everybody loves drama, especially narcissists, yeah? They love it. They love duping people into believing they're gaslighting. Second book, yeah, you've definitely caught the eye of a narcissist who knows how stupid you are and can smile with delight when he dupes you. That's what's happening. Second book, no. But good that you've identified yourselves. We can now say over there is where you will stay, away from the people with half a brain, which you definitely don't have. Meanwhile, like I say, my book will come out and it is of a high standard. It's not a 1-star Amazon release with a load of blank pages because the person producing it didn't realise they've kept a load of empty pages in their Word document. Shite like that. Zero attention to detail. Rushed out at a date that I arbitrarily set. Even their release date was based on a date that I came up with. But yet you're too stupid to recognise that it's stolen material? Oh yes, I love sitting in a hangout with two thieves while they produce a second book in my company. No, there's only one book. It was designed to produce money for me to feed my kids with. Effectively, these two thieving fucks have taken the food out of my kids' mouths. That's what they've done. Now again, that's why I'm so infuriated by this. The whole process, which has taken about 3 years instead of 1, has been elongated by thieves who are now convincing and gaslighting the world that somehow I'm in the wrong for having been stolen from. And other wankers who surround them say, yeah, it's all right. It seems totally legit. Why? Well, because they're wankers. That's why. This Paul, LVA, you're a wanker. Make no mistake about it. That's why you're loveless and living with your parents, Paul. Make no mistake about what you are, you sad little man. You want to try and piss me off? Well, you succeeded. But you've also identified yourself as a dumbass who doesn't recognise gaslighting. Telling the audience that I'm gaslighting. Well, we haven't got an audience, have you, Paul?
Just going to say, Nathan, was it possible to recommend a book that you haven't read yet?
That I have
That's a
read.
good one.
Book that I have read.
No, I understand what he's saying. How dare you say I won't be recommending his book? You haven't even read it. It's not been out, so how can you say something like that?
Don't.
He has an agenda.
Don't buy my book, Paul. Yeah? You are not worthy. You're too dumb. You probably won't understand the language. If you're gonna buy it, if you insist, get Mommy to buy it for you and she can read it to you. Okay, Paul?
Oh, boy. It is infuriating if you listen to it. I put it in mess to be. Whoever wants to listen to that, go listen to this freaking moron. I stopped after 2 minutes.
And the other
I don't know
guy,
how long it goes
Roger
on.
Ledwell, this is a guy who I've sent microphones to, right? It's the same guy, correct?
That's correct.
So I, out of the goodness of my heart, have bought my microphones and given them to this guy. He said, can you send microphones internationally? Offering to buy it. I'm like, no, you're a YouTuber. You do have an audience, unlike Paul. So I'll send you one. You're associated with the subject that we cover, and I want everybody to have good audio. So I will send you a free microphone. So then he picked one, a crap one, off the website. And I said, nah, it's not very good. I'll send you 2. So I sent them out, tracked them, traced them, chased them, and they eventually reached with him. And then, as a thank you, I hear that he's promoting the material stolen by 2 thieves and justifying it. Am I correct in what I'm hearing, Neil?
That's correct.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Roger Ledwell. I'm really glad that I supported you in sending out microphones and chasing them to my financial detriment and time detriment. I only had microphones to sell because I wasn't publishing a book because I've been told by 2 thieves not to. So as a consequence of being delayed by 2 people saying, don't publish, we will help you make this book better. The one that they've now got their names on, the ones that they stole. Yeah? That's why I had microphones, Roger. Because I had to mitigate for not publishing a book I was suggested to retract from the shelves while it was improved. Sorry, I forgot to introduce the gaslighting of that circumstance being me sat in a room while a second book, lining the pockets of two thieving bastards, was what I wanted to do with my time. No, that makes no sense unless you're a moron being gaslit by somebody who's taking great delight in just how stupid you are.
The other thing to consider, Nathan, is a lot of these people are still, like an All the Misfit Toys 2.3. Want the argument. I mean, I heard Adam Meakin promoting the book as it's great if you want to argue with a Glober, because it's got everything in there for an argument. Now, these guys we're talking about, LVA Paul and Ledwell, they're probably in that category where they like arguing and talking about Feast of Nonsense. Yeah, just like we've been discussing today. They want the argument. So initially, they'll sort of prefer that sort of book than the true book, which isn't out yet. So you couldn't, make a decision whether to recommend it or not if you've not read it all. But this book, Nathan's book, which hasn't been released yet, gets rid of all the Feast of Nonsense. There is no argument. You need to wake up and catch up with the not flat earth debate, because there is no debate. There's no argument, right? It's all about measurements, and that's what Nathan's book will be about. So get with it and catch up.
Indeed. Any more for any more? No. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smashing the super thanks, hit me up on PayPal, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.